Hello students, welcome back into the another session on C++ programming. Students, in the last lecture we studied about the data types. We studied integer, float, double, character data types. When we were discussing about these data types in the last lecture like integer, float and character, so at that time have you ever thought about why these data types are existing in the first place? Because here we have to understand why data types are existing first, and then only we can use them. We use that in C, we are going to use that in the C++, and also we will be using that in the Java and other languages also. But the fundamental concept of data types needs to be understood properly. So before we will see the concept of data types and why is it existing, I want to take you to another example. Let's consider you have an operating system and you are working on the file explorer and you have opened the documents. When you opened any drive or documents, you will see the documents are of different types. You may have a .txt document, you may have a PDF document, you may have a document with the extension .docx, isn't it? So why do you have these different sorts of extensions? The reason is that your operating system should know while opening these documents that how to read that document, isn't it? Because when the documents were stored, every document, whether it is PDF or whether it is a doc or whether it is a .txt, all they have been translated into the binary form at the end, isn't it? All of you will agree with that. While you are storing the data on the hard disk, it is in the binary form, in the 1 and 0 form. The question is not about the storing the data, but the question is about how you will read it back and how you will not lose its meaning while you are reading it back. So that's why we have different file types. So now if you are working on the PDF, now you know that in order to read that PDF, you need a PDF reader. If you are working on the .txt, if the file is having the dot extension as a .txt, you know that in order to read that file, you will need to use Notepad. If the file extension is .docx, you know that in order to read that file, you will need Microsoft Word. So these are the different tools or applications through which only you can read it, isn't it? If you try to open .txt file using PDF reader, will you be able to read it? If you forcefully try to do it, you will get something else. That it doesn't have the meaning, it will lose its meaning. Similarly, if there is a file with the extension .jpg, if you open it with something else like Microsoft Word or something other than that or PDF reader, you will not be able to get the image properly. So you will see something different. So basically what has happened, you lost the meaning of that data while you read it back. So it is very important to know while you are storing the data and while you are reading the data in which particular way the data needs to be stored and data needs to be read back. So that's why we have different sorts of file systems, and for that we have a different data types primarily in the programming language. So in the programming language, when we store the data, we have to tell first to the compiler that how the data will be stored first, and then how it needs to be read it back whenever we will read it without losing its meaning. So that's why we have data types. So integer, floats, characters, all these are nothing but the data types, and they will occupy different amounts of space into the memory depending upon how they are getting represented. And when you are reading it back, compiler has to know that in which particular way it needs to be read. So if it is a float, it will read it in that way. If it is a character, it will try to read it in that way. So it will group that and it will try to read it in the same way, in the way it was stored. So that's why we need data types. In C or C++, primarily we have two different data types. The first one is a primary data type or a primitive data type, and the second one is user defined data type or non-primitive data type. Now primitive or primary data type, as its name is telling you, it is primary. It is primary in the sense your compiler has a direct support to these data types. So integer, float, character, You're not supposed to tell to your compiler how to work with the integer or float or character because it has an inbuilt support. These are a primary support data types. So that's why it is called as a primitive data type. They are at the very basic level and it has an inbuilt support from the compiler to work with. So that's why it is called as a primary data type. So integer, float, character, all these are nothing but the primary data types. Then secondarily we have user defined data type. Now user defined data types are nothing but data types which we have created out of some primary data types. So we might need to club different things together, like we want one integer, one float. So in that case we have to create the data types. We have to define how that data type will work. So in that case we have a structure, union, class and enumeration. These are the user defined data types. Why we call it as a user defined data types? The reason is that because structure itself doesn't have any support, but we have to define how that structure needs to be created, what source of data will be stored in that structure. Similarly in the class itself doesn't have any meaning, so you have to define the class, how that class will behave, what source of data will be there inside in the class. So you have to define that. And who has that ability to define? So the programmer. So as of now, we are, as a programmer, we are using the programming language. So we are a user, isn't it? We are a user of that programming language. And that's why we call it as a user defined data types. Because here programmer has a freedom to club different sorts of data together and define its own structure. So that's why we call it as a user defined data types. So we have structure, union, class and enumeration in the user defined data type segment. Then we have derived data types. Now derived data types are derived from the primary data types. That's why it is called as a derived. Derived in the sense they are having some sort of support from the primary data type, but they don't have direct support. So they are being derived according to our needs. Okay, so we have arrays, functions, pointer and reference as a derived data types. Later on we will see user defined data types and derived data types in detail. Now we will see operators that we can use in the C++. We have already studied these operators in the C, and the same concept has been carried forwarded in the C++ also. So we have arithmetic operators, relational operator, logical operators, bitwise operator and assignment operators. So we will study them one by one. We'll get started with arithmetic operators. As we have used arithmetic operators before, instead of going through the simple table of operators, what I have decided that we will go through applications of operators. So we will see actually how they can be used. So here I have used operators, arithmetic operators. So how many different arithmetic operators do we have? So we have addition operator, subtraction operator, multiplication, division. These are the four basic binary operators that we have. Binary in the sense these operators can be used with two operands. I will need at least two operands to work with them. Whereas we have a unary operator also. To them we call it as a plus plus and minus minus. These are called as a unary operator because we need only one operand in order to work with them. So addition operator, here you can see it is a binary operator because we need two operands. There are two variables over here, A and B, and the addition of that is getting stored in the C. As we have worked in the C also, the data will be moving from right to left. So here the data from A plus B will be transferred to the C. So from right hand side it will go to the left hand side. So that's why the resultant will be always there on the left hand side. We cannot write down A plus B is equals to C. That is how we can generally write in normal mathematics. But here in this case, in the programming language, we write it in different way. So where the result needs to be get stored, that will come on the left hand side. And the operation will go on the right hand side. So here A plus B, the result will be stored in C. And here we have used C out. That is nothing but the result will be printed on the screen. Here we have used the cout and cin. Cout is equivalent to printf statement, printf function that we have in the C. So it will print whatever is in the double quotation onto the screen. Whereas we have a cin which is equivalent to the scanf. Later on we will study in detail cout and cin, how they can be used, and what is the different way or what are the different variations in which we can work with them. Okay, here in the cin we have to just use the variables which we wanted to get as an input. So here I have used cin a and b. So here a and b are of type integers. So two numbers will be inputted from the user. The first input will be stored in a variable and the second input will be stored in b variable. Here the addition of these two variables will be done and the result will be stored in the c variable, and that variable will be printed afterwards. Similarly, for the subtraction we have used this operator, subtraction operator or minus operator over here. So a minus b. So it is doing the subtraction and the result will be stored in the c variable. Similarly, we have a multiplication operator, then we have a division operator. This you know that how to work with a division operator. Now then we have this plus plus, which is also called as a incrementing operator. There are two different variations of incrementing operator and decrementing operator. In this case we have used post increment variation. There is another, that is pre-increment variation. So in the post increment variation we do the incrementing of that operand's value after the assignment. So here consider the value of a is 5, so that 5 will be assigned first to c and then the value will be incremented by 1. So this is called as a post increment. Opposite to that we have a pre-increment also. In the case of pre-increment we will have plus plus a. So operator will come first and then operand will be there. So in that case the value of that operand will be incremented first and it will be assigned to the other side of the variable, that is to the c. So this is nothing but a incrementing operator. So it will increment the value of that variable by 1. Similarly, we have a decrement operator. It will decrement the value of that variable by 1. So it is equivalent to a is equals to a minus 1. Instead of that we can simply write down a minus minus. Hope the arithmetic operators are clear to you. Let's study logical operators. So we have three different types of logical operators. One is AND operator, another one is OR operator, and third one is NOT operator. Now we use ampersand sign twice in order to represent AND operator. This is OR operator, and we are using exclamation mark to represent a NOT operator. Now logical operators are meant to work logically. So they will give you the logical true or false answer. So they will compare the things logically and accordingly they will give you the result. So let's consider with an example. Here we have two integers a and b. A is 12 and b is 10. Here we are comparing, we are checking if a and b. Now here if both are non-zero values, then the condition will be true. In the case of this particular variable a and b, we will compare whether they are 0 or whether they are non-zero. And if they are non-zero, then the condition will be true. If the one of the condition is false, then the condition will become false. So here in this case both a and b both are non-zero. That's why condition is true. Because a is also 12, it is not 0, b is also not 0. So both are true. If both conditions, both a and b are true, then the condition will be true. If any of that will be false, then the condition will be false. Here is the example. If a and b, here the value of a is 0. So if any of the operand is having 0 value, then the condition will be false. So here the output will be condition is not true. This is nothing but the output of this particular case where a is 0. But if a is 12 and b is 10, in that case a and b both are having non-zero values, means both are true. If both are true, then the condition will be true and this particular condition will be evaluated and this particular statement will be printed. Opposite to that we have a OR operator. In the case of OR operator, any of the value of the operand is true, the output is true. So here a or b. If the condition of a and b both are non-zero, then the output will be true. Even though the operand a or b will be 0, in that case also you will have the condition as a true, because here either or case is applicable. Means either a is 0 or b is 0, or a is 1 or b is 1. If a is 1 and b is 0, our output will be true. If the value of A is 0 and B is 1, in that case also we will have an outcome as a true. And if A and B both are 0, in that case we will have outcome as a false. Then we have a not operator here. So in the case of not operator, what it does, it flips the result. So if result is true, it will make it false. If result is false, it will make it true. It will flip the result which we have. Now in this case, what we are doing, A and B. Now in this case, A is 0 and B is 10, means B is non-zero. So the output of this is false because we have used AND operator, and in the case of AND operator, in order to have result as a true, both operands A and B should be non-zero, isn't it? As we have A as 0 and B is non-zero, here the outcome will be false. But as we have used NOT operator, what it will do, it will flip the result. So as the result was false, but it has used NOT operator, so it will make it true. So now that true result has been there in the if case, that's why if condition will be evaluated as a true, and this particular statement, cout condition is true, will be executed, and you will have an outcome as a condition as a true. As we have already studied logical operators in the C, hence I haven't gone through the truth table. Instead of that, I have taken that into the applications. Hope this way of understanding is clear to you. Now in the case of bitwise operator, it does the bitwise operation. Now what is the bitwise operation? So the bitwise operation is nothing but whatever the operand that you have given, that will be converted into its binary format. Another operand will be also converted into its binary format, and all the binary formats will be compared. That binary bit will be compared with another bit. So bitwise that operation will be done. So let's say suppose I have 5 and 6. So 5 will be represented into its binary format, 6 will be represented into its binary format, and then we will have bitwise operation. If we wanted to perform that sort of operation, then we will use bitwise operator. And if we don't want to perform that bitwise operation, then logical operator is used. So logical operator will consider entire operand as a whole, and then it will work on it. Whereas in the case of bitwise operator, it will not directly work on the operand, but it will first translate that into its binary format, and then bitwise that operation will be done with the another operand. So that is the difference between the bitwise and logical operator. Now in the case of bitwise operator, again we have three different ways or three different symbols. We have AND operator, we have OR operator, and we have XOR operator. Now in this case we will not use AND % sign twice. Here we will use it only once because it is bitwise. If I will use it twice, then that will become a logical operator. If I will use this AND sign only once, then that is bitwise operator. If it is twice, then that is logical. Okay. So here for the OR I have used only single time. If I will use it twice, then that will become logical OR. If it is for a single time, then it is bitwise OR. Similarly, it is XOR operator. Now the beauty of XOR operator is that here if the both operands are similar, means if both operands are same, then output will be 0. Okay, so here P and Q, both operands are same, so both operands are 0, that's why you will have output as a 0. Here also we have both operands as a 1, they are same, that's why you will have output as a 0. So whenever you will have both operands in the same way, 0 or 1, that case you will have the outcome as a 0. So both should be 0 or both should be 1, then and then only output will be 0. In all other cases, if either of that is 0 or 1, in that case you will have outcome as a 1. So if one is 0, another one is 1, then outcome will be 1. If first one is 1 and second one is 0, still you will have output as a 1. But if both are 0, output will be 0. If both are 1, then output will be 0. Okay, so both operands are same, either 1 or either they are all 0, then you will have outcome as a 0 in the XOR operator. Whereas in the case of other case, AND and OR operator, it will work similar as to your logical operator. Only the thing is that here bitwise ANDing or ORing will be done. So bitwise ANDing in the sense 0 0, as both are 0, AND operator will have outcome as a 0. Also in the case of OR operator, we will have outcome as a 0, isn't it? Then next we have 0 and 1 as an input. So here in the case of AND operator, as any of this case is 0, we will have outcome as a 0, because in the case of ANDing, what we have seen in the case of logical ANDing also, any of the operand is 0, you will have output as a 0, isn't it? So if one operand is 0, you will have straight away outcome as a 0 over here. So that's why ANDing is 0. Whereas in the case of ORing, we will have 0 and 1. So either of the case is 1, we will have outcome as a 1. So if 0 is odd with 1, we will have outcome as a 1. Similarly, we have a AND operator, which is another case, another variation. So a 1 and 0. So if first one is 1 and second one is 0, but as there is a 0 afterwards, we will have AND as a 0, AND output as a 0. Whereas in the case of OR operator, we will have output as a 1, because either of the case is 1, we will have output as a 1. So this is how bitwise operation will be done. The difference between logical operator and bitwise operator is only one. In the both of the cases, we have done the logical ANDing or logical ORing. Only the difference is that in the case of logical operator, whole variable, whole operand will be considered for ANDing and ORing. Whereas in the case of bitwise operator, we will treat each and every bit of that binary representation for the operation purpose. That's the only difference. As we have crossed our 20 minutes time over here, in the next lecture we will continue with the bitwise operator. We will take one example on the bitwise operator so that you will understand it in clearer manner, and then we will move on to the relational operators and other operators which have been left. Till then, keep studying. Thank you.